Ochidoayi, and I'm your host, Ochidoayi. So today is day 71. We're going to be looking at what transpired after God had to warn them. Yesterday in the book of Numbers, we talked about how some guy named, what's that his name again? Mr. Korah. Mr. Korah's there, along with two brothers, Dathan and Abiram, and some wannabe, some busybody named On, who challenged Moses. Who challenged Moses and said, "Yeah, you're becoming too much. You put all the best positions for yourself, and then you gave us supporters of the priest. We want to be priests as well. You're taking this thing too far. So all of us are blessed by God. You're not the only one who's blessed by God, and all of that stuff. So that's what we did yesterday. So if you remember, God had to tell the Israelites to get away from them. There was a sinkhole drama. Their tents were swallowed up into the ground and covered up. God selecting that, look, I chose Moses. Moses had to go into an incense duel with them. Bring your incense, I'm going to bring my incense, and let's see who God's going to pick. So that's what transpired yesterday. So you're welcome to the Bible in 1 year with me. We're going to be continuing that story. My name is Ochidoayi. I chose to do the Bible in 1 year because I want to know God for myself. I want to test the theories in the Bible. I want to see what I want to discard what is not relevant, and I want to know where the stories are. I want to know what the stories are. The interpretations that I'll be sharing are my thoughts, my insights, and my learnings. The essence of this is to encourage you to go read the Bible for yourself as well. And of course, if you're curious about the Bible, you can follow me as I'm going to be reading the Bible from cover to cover. And I'll be doing this for 365 days. I will try to make sure I show up here every single day. All right, so I don't want to spend so much time today. Let's see what the we started out up to today. So we are finishing Numbers chapter 16 all the way through to chapters 18. We're finishing 16 and then going all the way through to chapters 18. We're going to be reading Mark chapter 16, Psalm 55, and then Proverbs chapter 11. All right, so basically, there was a whole yesterday, over 250 people died. Fire consumed them because they challenged Moses and Aaron, saying that Moses and Aaron were not qualified to be priests, or perhaps had placed themselves there. And Moses was trying to say, I didn't pick myself. God gave me this thing, and he gave Aaron. Everything I do because God instructs. But they were like, get out. Have you even taken us to the promised land? Said, you scammer. That's what you said. You said you pretended like you wanted to take us, but now you're taking us around. We don't believe you. All of us can be priests. And so they challenged him, and then there was that duel, and then God showed up and then incinerated all the people who challenged Moses. If you remember, their incense containers, that thing they hold with incense, because that's what the priests do. They wanted to do, the Levites wanted to do it. And then some random busybodies joined them to do it. Hello, Priestley, Abui, Fash Pesho, Anwa, and Fazi Pesho. You're welcome to my live streaming today. I'm talking about Bible stories. I'm talking about Bible stories. Please don't be in a tornado. Please be safe. Please be safe. All right. So he does that. And this morning, the Israel immediately 250 people died yesterday, right? This morning the Israelites are at it again. They are murmuring, they just gather in front of Moses' tent and they are murmuring, Moses, you killed us, you're gonna kill us. Why did you cause this? You've killed all these leaders. We want to stop. Look, there was they hadn't learned anything. They hadn't learned anything at all, which is so shocking to me. Because did you not just see what happened yesterday? Did you not see what happened to Mr. Korah and the ringleaders, Abitam and Dotham and On? Did you see what happened to them? And yet here you are again murmuring. Has it not occurred to these Israelites that murmuring really ticked God off? It really ticked God off. Anyway, so they began to murmur the next morning and gathered at the temple saying, and then God was like, you know what? I'm still even angry. Moses, get out of my way. I'm going to incinerate these people. I'm going to clear them. So Moses tells Aaron, quickly, go burn incense among the people to purify them. We must burn incense among the people to purify them. So I'm not really sure why that happens or why that is so. But he says, go burn incense to purify them. He believed that there was a plague starting. So I think every single time the Israelites murmured or did something wrong, they would trigger some sort of plague. The plague is never described, but something starts happening in their camp and then people start dying. It comes across like some sort of like a pandemic starts in their camp and something starts killing them. So in the moment they start, Moses doesn't even talk to them. He just quickly tells Aaron the priest, take an incense, go in between in their midst and start to pray in their midst. Do not allow this thing continue. In spite of that, 14,000 people still died. 14,700 people still fell to the plague. Still fell to the plague. So chapter 17, that was how that ended. They hadn't learned, and it seemed like they were never going to learn. So there was no need talking to them and saying, you guys should stop murmuring, God hates it. Just pray for them and let's move on. Okay? So that tells me, I was talking with a loved one today and we're sharing stories, and I was saying that some people you can't, if they are able to see things your way, stop trying to talk to them. Just do what you can do for them. And that's what this confirms that scripture today, because Moses says Aaron should just go ahead and pray for them. Don't try to convince them. So in chapter 17, in order for God to now stop all this murmuring, because they still didn't believe it, just maybe they felt Moses and Aaron were using some sort of special dark magic to control things. And so because they had more magic, they were just controlling everybody. So God was like, I need to prove that I've chosen you guys. So this is what you're going to do. You're going to get all the leaders of all the 12 tribes to bring a staff. Thank you for the love. You're going to get a leader of all the 12 tribes to bring a staff each. Inscribe the names of the leaders on the staff. You, Aaron, you are going to be the leader of the Levite tribe. We're going to lay all this stuff in front. So in Africa, we have some kinds of wooden staff that are like really seasoned wood, dry. If you plant them, they will not grow, right? I have a feeling that kind of staff, something like that, something that is used to aid walking or to show prestige or status in as a chief. So all the chiefs bring their staff and they lay them overnight. So God tells them that I'm going to put an end to wondering who I have picked. The person who I have chosen, his staff will sprout. It will bud. There will be a proof, because it will have life. And it will be shocking to everybody else, because all the staffs are seasoned, right? So they all go to bed, and the next morning, Aaron's staff had budded. Of course, everybody could see that it was the one with Aaron's name inscribed on it that had budded. And people were like, oh God, we're trapped. We're trapped. Oh, we're not going to get out of this thing. We're ruined. I don't know. Why? Why did God choose these people? Why were we brought from Egypt? We should have been left there to just, oh God, we're so trapped. And that was their countenance. So you see, no matter what happened, they were unable to have a different perspective. They were unable to say, all right, if God had chosen Moses and Aaron, let's just work with them and get to the promised land. Let's just show that we are ready for this. They continue to prove to God that they were just simply not ready. Anyway, God knew that they were still going to attempt to possibly break into the temple and stuff like that. So he now gives Aaron really strong warnings. He tells Aaron, if anything goes wrong in the temple with you and the Levites, I'm going to hold you responsible. I'm going to hold you responsible. I'm going to make sure you pay for any mistakes they make. What are the Levites supposed to do? They are supposed to assist you. Don't get carried away and don't be intimidated by all these tantrums that they are displaying. They are not, I don't care. I don't care who is displaying tantrums. They are not to be priests. They are not to burn incense before the temple. They are not to enter the Holy of Holies. They are not to touch. They are not to look. They are only to assist you, do whatever you want them to do. In fact, I am gifting them to you, priests. They are your assistants. So don't allow your cousins, don't allow your brothers, don't allow your relatives bully you into thinking they can enter the temple. If they enter the temple and touch anything, I will hold you responsible. And those people, they will not stay. They will not be around. They will be unalived. They will be unalived. Okay, so don't treat. So to make sure that you know that I'm really serious about you and what you're doing, I have made provisions for your welfare. So in chapter 17, he begins to break down how they will be taken care of. He tells them that, where is that accent from? It's from Nigeria. It's from Nigeria in Africa. Oh, you're welcome to my live streaming today. So he tells them that all things should be treated as holy. All the sacrifices that have been brought, all the bulls, all the rams, all the sheep, all the goat, all the unblemished 1-year-old lambs, all the turtle doves, whatever it is that you bring for sacrifice, I have given to you, priests and Levites, as your portion. Let me explain to you how it works out. So all the other 11 tribes are going to work. I'm going to bless them. They're going to work, and they'll be able to till the soil. They'll be able to trade and have money. All of them are supposed to bring a tithe of everything that they own. They would bring the tithe to the temple. The tithe will be shared across all the Levites. So if in a given year it was a great year and the amount of tithes that were brought was 500 million, whatever their currency was, that 500 million will be shared across all the Levites. And then all the sacrifices, the grain offering, the animal offering, all of that stuff. If you recall, some of the sacrifices even had specific portions of the body. They'll say, take the right thigh and do a wave offering when you come to the altar, right? And all of that. So all of that belongs to you. Now, I don't want you to be entitled. I don't want you to take it for granted. And I don't want you to abuse the privilege I've given you. Do you understand, priest? Yes, sir. We understand. We understand, God. Thank you very much. So if you take it for granted, I will not be happy with you. I will not be happy with you. And so that's what God was sharing to them. I have taken care of you. Don't bother about trying to get land and property. I have made provisions for you. Everybody will bring what they own, and this is how it's going to go around. Okay? I meant that they gave more than just food. They probably gave clothing items. They probably gave gifts and decorative ornaments, furniture, whatever. I choose to believe that if the Levites were not really permitted to work and they had to be working in the temple, that was some really busy work. You see, I mean, in a day they must kill up to 1,000 animals in sacrifice. So it must be really be no time to do anything else. So I'm sure that they were commanded, the other Israelites were commanded to take care of them. Which brings me to a very important topic in consideration in our climate today. There's a whole lot of outcry against the issue of tithing. In my Nigeria, where I come from, there are people who speak for it and people who speak against it. Many people who are against it believe that clergy are taking advantage of the populace, the congregation, and milking them. They are collecting tithe and using the tithe to live large. Meanwhile, there are people in their congregation that have needs, right? People in their congregation that have needs. And so why should they accumulate all that for themselves? Some of them are accused of living ostentatiously. Some of them are accused of living, in ways that are not even decent. So there's a lot of outcry against the issue of tithe. But I can see here that God really intended for tithe to take care of the priest, which means that if someone has successfully blessed the people spiritually, the people can bring stuff to him, and that is his tithe, you know. But in the world today, because there's so much poverty in the land, people are not happy when churches appear, especially leaders of churches, especially some types of churches, appear to amass all the funds and money for themselves without helping the people in the congregation who have needs. So there's an outcry against tithing, and it caused such a couple of years ago, it caused such, maybe 2-3 years ago, such a big meltdown on the internet across the Nigerian space, and people began to reject paying tithes. But here in the scripture, there's provision for tithes, and tithes are meant for the priests. So I guess the argument was that I don't want to speak ahead of myself, right? But there's tithe in the Bible, and in the Old Testament, everybody was taxed. A tithe, a tenth of all that you have, were taxed to take care of the clergy, because the clergy were not expected to work to take care of themselves. They had a lot of work doing, conducting spiritual matters. I'm going to leave this here. So that ends Numbers 16 to 18. We're going to look at Mark 16 as we round up. Mary and Co. Mark, we read yesterday that Jesus was crucified, right? And when I read it in Matthew, I remember feeling very distraught. But so Mark, the book of Mark, he summarizes things quite a bit. So he quickly just tells us Jesus was crucified and Jesus died, and then they couldn't. Joseph was Arimathea came and picked up his body and laid it in his newly cut tomb. He doesn't really tell us all the other little details that were happening around. So this morning we see Mary and Co. Mary, and Salome. There's a group called Mary, right? They get their names from these same characters here. Mary, and Salome. So we see Mary, and Salome. They are headed to the tomb on the first day of the week. Why? Because Jesus was crucified on Friday. On Saturday was the Sabbath, so nothing could be done. And because of how he was crucified, he was hurriedly laid in the tomb. No cleaning was done to his body. None of those spices and all those things that are done when people are being prepped for burial were done for his body. He was just laid there. The women had it in mind that they would go there 2 days later to treat his body. But when they got there, as they approached the tomb, it was open. And there was a man sitting there. Before they were going, they were thinking, who's going to even help us open that thing? When they were burying him, it was so large. And we won't have the courage to pull it out. Anyway, I hear that there's some guards at the gate, right? Okay, we'll just plead with them. When they get there are no guards, and there's somebody sitting down there. And then he says, who are you guys looking for? Are you looking for Jesus of Nazareth? He's not here. He's not here. Come and see. And then they go into the tomb, they look around. He's not here. He's not here. He's like, yes, he's risen, just like he said he would. Now go and tell the disciples that Jesus is risen, especially Peter. It's actually written here, especially Peter. That's the one. I added that part. That's the one. Go and tell him that Jesus is risen and he has gone ahead of you. He will show himself to them. So the women scampered, woo, and they ran straight to Peter and they told Peter, and then Jesus now, so they didn't believe her. And then suddenly Jesus appeared to two people on the road. They didn't tell us who those two people were. They didn't tell us where they were going to. They didn't tell us what the conversation was. They just told us that Jesus appeared to them and showed up. And then they were like, Jesus. And then they too ran back and told the disciples. The disciples were like, we don't believe you. They went to the tomb. He's not there, but we don't believe you. We don't know what is going on. And so Jesus began to appear to different people, and they were telling the disciples until eventually Jesus showed up where they were all gathered one day and showed up with them. And he told them, look, guys, I'm here. I'm alive. I told you, if you kill this temple, I'll raise it up in 3 days. That's exactly what happened. God, my Father, resurrected me. I'm going to the Father. But before I go, I want to give you an assignment. This assignment tells you to go out into the world and preach the gospel to every creature. So every writer of the Gospels wrote it differently. In the book of Matthew, if you remember, he tells us that, let me see it. Go into the world and make disciples of all men. Here he tells us go into the world and preach to every creature, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Those who do not believe you are condemned already. But those who believe, they will cast out demons, they will speak in new languages, new tongues, they will take up snakes and scorpions and things like that, and it will do them no harm. They will be poisoned, or they can be poisoned, and it will not hurt them. It will not hurt them. They will lay hands on sick people, and sick people will recover. Those who believe will do all those exploits and much more. And then Jesus was caught up and taken into heaven. And he sits at God's right hand. So the disciples took to the street and began to tell everybody what they knew. What they knew and what they believed. And that ends our lessons. I wrote here that if the writer of the book of Mark was invited for a diary session and I was given a chance to ask him a question, I would say, excuse me, mister, why are you over summarizing the stories? Why can't you take time and write it? I feel like it would be like me and my husband narrating the same thing. My husband would summarize this thing like this. And I would love to write in details, detail by detail, detail by, if his eyelashes move, I would love to capture that in story, you know. Anyway, the book of Mark was very, very brief, 16 chapters. All right, and that brings us an end to the book of Mark. Powerful story. So Jesus is out there, sitting at the right hand of God the Father. I believe he's looking out for us. If you remember, he's looking out for us. All right, so finally, we come to the book of Proverbs, chapter 11, verses 7. When a wicked man dies, his expectations will perish, and the hope of the unjust perishes. Verses 7. The hope of the unjust perishes. So, if you want your hope to live beyond you, be righteous, do right, live right. In other words, someone like my dad who has passed on, there's some things that he expected in his heart, he hoped to achieve. Even though he's gone, his expectations will live because God works on the heart of the righteous. God brings the expectations of the righteous to pass. But if he was unrighteous, his expectations will go with him. They will not live, they will not outlive him. There will be no legacy left, you know. All right, so let's go to Psalm 57, which is our last. Psalm 55, chapters 1 to 23. It's a bit of a long read, so buckle up. It will take me about 2 minutes to do so. Trust in God concerning treachery of friends. Yes, I wrote here that David is seen lamenting, looking for an escape. It appears that David had been betrayed by close friends and is calling fire and brimstone on them. He lives what he preaches, though. He casts his burdens upon the Lord, for God sustains him. He won't allow the righteous to be moved. That appears to be David's consolation. So let's take a look and see what David is lamenting about. I wish I could get my tab to open up so that I could read it from the New Living Translation. This new update, I don't like it. I just suddenly had my I've changed it back. My son must have tampered with it. So give me a minute to get to Psalms. Psalms 55. I want to read it from the New Living Translation. It's usually very... So let me read it now. Listen to my prayer, O God. Do not ignore my cry for help. Listen and answer me, for I am overwhelmed with my troubles. My enemies shout at me, making loud and wicked threats. They bring trouble on me and angrily hunt me down. My heart pounds in my chest, and terror of death assaults me. Fear and trembling overwhelm me. I can't stop shaking. Oh, that I had king's wings. Oh, there's a song that, I had wings like a dove. Then I would fly away and rest. I would fly far away to the quietness of the wilderness. So there's a song that when I was growing up, when I was about 6 years old, they used to sing where I used to grow up. It was like, if I had the wings like a dove, if I had the wings like a dove, I will fly away over the mountains, over the seas where my love is waiting for me. That's where that song was coming from. The girl must have been about 12 years old. It was very popular when I was a kid. All right, so verses 9. How quickly I will escape far from this wild storm of hatred. Verses 9. Confuse them, Lord, and frustrate their plans, for I see violence and conflict in the city. Its walls are patrolled day and night against invaders, but the real danger is wickedness within the city. Everything is falling apart. Threats and cheating are rampant in the streets. Does this sound like a place you know? It sounds like a place I know. But I don't want to exalt the terrible things that are happening in my country. I want to be hopeful, okay? So, but I can relate with what David is going through right now. It is not an enemy who taunts me. I could bear that. It is not my foes who arrogantly insult me. I could have hidden from them. Instead, it is you, my equal, my companion, my close friend. What good fellowship we once enjoyed as we walked together to the house of God. Let death stalk my enemies. Let the grave swallow them alive. Let evil make its home within them. Oh, but I will call on God, and the Lord will rescue me. David Shah. Morning, noon, and night I cry out in my distress, and the Lord hears my voice. He ransoms me and keeps me safe from the battle waged against me, though many still oppose me. God has ruled forever. He will hear me and humble them. For my enemies refuse to change their ways. They did not hear God. They did not fear God. As for my companion, he betrayed his friends. He broke his promises. His words are smooth as butter, but his heart is war. His words are as soothing as lotion, but underneath are daggers. Give your burdens to the Lord, and he will take care of you. He will not permit the godly to sleep and fall. And that, I believe, is my is my. So we wrote here 1 to 23. I should have said 25. But you, O God, I will send down the wicked to the pit of destruction. Murderers and liars will die young, and I'm trusting you to save me. I reflect at night on who you are, O Lord. Therefore, I obey your instructions. I obey your. Okay, sorry. So that's another scripture. So I end with, Oh God, but you, O God, will send the wicked down to the pit of destruction. Murderers and liars will die young, but I'm trusting in you to save me. So that's our reading today from the New Testament. I hope you enjoyed and gleaned something from it. You see, if you've ever been betrayed by friends, you can imagine how painful you may be able to relate with how painful it is. But even though David was calling fire and brimstone, he still relied on God to keep him safe, to help him deal with the pain. I would add further that find someone you can talk to so that you can share that pain with. I know I did when I was betrayed by people that I thought were close companions. All right. So I want you to go to bed knowing that Jesus is risen. Jesus is risen. And that's okay. That's all we need. So we end our reading for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Please share, like, subscribe, and turn on the notification buttons, and I'll see you tomorrow. God bless you.